Now, when it comes to bodyweight strength training, most people think about the traditional ways of training it, the push-ups, and if you progress from the push-ups, you go to like pike push-ups or dips. And then for the pulling movements, we'll be doing things like rows and then progressing towards things like chin-up variations. And there's no denying that they're fantastic bodyweight strength exercises for bent arm strength. What happens when we keep the arms straight? The two main static positions that you can train is the planche and the front lever. So today I'm going to take you through the beginner's guide to both the planche in the tuck planche, and then it's pulling, its opposite movement, the front lever position. And we're going to focus on more beginner-friendly options. So if you are newer to this style of training, you're over 40 like myself, or if you just want to tidy up your foundations, this video is for you. Now, straight arm training can feel quite strange if you're just used to doing more the bent arm stuff or just using the standard traditional gym exercises like bench press, lat pull downs, rows, that type of stuff. So initially we just want to get the setup correct and the understanding or the body's terminology of these positions. So first thing we want to do is create a very strong foundation. So we're going to spread our fingers and we're going to externally rotate, so turning out. Normally turning out or external rotation creates a stronger position. It also creates more space, so it's just easier on the body. So externally rotate. I recommend that you jump down on the floor and try this. So take the hands maybe a little bit wider than shoulder width on your knees, and then all we're going to do is push up to protraction. Now protraction is when we round out the upper back and your shoulder blades disappear into your rib cage. So in this position, you shouldn't be able to see your shoulder blades. And if that feels a bit uncomfortable or you struggle to do that, just do a little bit of flossing or mobility work, just going between retraction, so it's bringing the shoulder blades together, and protraction, which is that pushing out as high as you can. This is the position you go into if you want to push your car. If it breaks down, you'll be pushing as hard as you can, and this will create the biggest amount of force where you're not collapsing. So pushing the floor away, rounding that upper back, keeping the arms dead straight. And just hold there for a few seconds, see how that feels. Now, once you've done that and it feels okay, see if you can then go up onto your toes, maintaining that protracted position. Now, if you find now you collapse, we need to do a little bit more work, just holding that position on the knees first. But most of you should be able to maintain that protraction up on the toes like that for at least a few seconds. And I'd recommend you video yourself from the side, actually ideally with your top off so you can see what the shoulder blades are doing. But externally rotate, shoulders on top of hands, protract, go up onto toes there. And all we're going to do next is just see if we can lean forwards a little bit. So this is like called planche in the shoulders. And I'm just playing, holding that protraction, seeing if I can lean forwards. Again, if you struggle with it, come down onto your knees and do the same thing. It's a little bit harder to maintain protraction when you're on your knees because it tries to pull you out of it, but have a play with that, taking the shoulders forwards into that planche position and back again. That's just getting you used to the position that your shoulders and your scapula and your arms need to go into when you hold a tuck planche. Next, we're going to go up onto the bar, do the opposite movement. And my goal here is to see if I can get upside down on the bar into a tuck position. Now, ideally, I'll be able to take 1 foot up, 2 feet up, and just hold here upside down like so. Now, if you struggle with that or if the bar setup makes that very difficult, you can put 1 foot behind. So I can have my toe on the bar there, pull myself into position and keep that foot there, which is going to stop me from falling back down. But ideally, have both feet on that side. And the other thing I can do when I'm there to make it a bit easier is I can push the legs out into my arms. If you're a bit more advanced with it, you can do exactly the same thing, but have straight legs. If you're doing it on rings, you can in fact put your legs either side of your hands, and that makes it much easier to go into this inverted position, whether it's straight body or tuck. And I'm replicating that now with the hands out to the side. So if you had a setup like this and you can do that, or with rings, that does make it easier because this bar doesn't get in the way. But just see if you can get upside down and hold there for time, get comfortable in that position, and then we can build upon both that planche position and that inverted hanging position. Okay, back onto the planche position now. We want to do that same setup, externally rotate the hands. We're going to push up into protraction, but we want to practice getting into a tight ball. The easier it is to get into this tight ball position, so like this, the easier it's going to be to hold a tuck planche. The reason being is that if my body hangs out and doesn't get into a ball very well, it's going to flatten the back and it's going to keep the legs behind. And when you try and do that in a planche position, the lever arm is much more sticking out the back, meaning I have to take the shoulders forwards, which means the position is just way more advanced, way more heavier, and most people aren't going to get even close to taking their toes off the floor. So the more we can dome, the more we can get into that tight ball, the easier the tuck planche is going to be. And what I'd suggest you do is create that position, externally rotate the hands, protract, but be in this position on the balls of your feet. So just like this, and have the knees inside your biceps like that. So ideally you can see the knees from the side. That means you're in a tight tuck. Externally rotate, protract, lean forwards. See if you can turn the toe over in that position. It's hard to talk here because my legs are really close to my torso. But again, try and videos from the side so you can see what you're doing and see if you can see your knees. It will keep you in that tight tuck position a lot easier. So there, from the side, turn the toes over and just hold that position. If that feels okay, just going to try lifting one foot, then the other foot. All while trying to maintain that protractor position, arms dead straight and shoulders forwards a little bit. Ideally, you're going to be holding these positions around 5 to 10 seconds. Don't overly worry about sets and reps yet, but we do want to start to increase quality time under tension. So basically, when you're doing static holds like this, it's not like repetitions like you would do 5 or 10 reps of push-ups. We want to accumulate time under tension, time in position. So it might be 5 or 10-second holds, time multiple sets. So if you're doing 5-second holds, you would do more sets. If you're doing 10-second holds, you would do less sets because the total time under tension is half per repetition, so you need twice the amount of sets. Okay, now on the bar, we want to start looking at creating that same position, but now hanging or pulling. So I'm going to try and get into a tight ball. So I'm going to try and take my knees past my elbows so they stick out again, like so. And I want to try and be in this position. Now notice at the moment is my hip is very high. So I'm still nearly upside down. And a very simple way of increasing the intensity, taking it more towards the front lever, is just to slowly lower the hip. If you've done the opposite and started down here somewhere and tried to pull up, that bit is really hard to pull into a front lever. So you're actually starting with a way more intense version. And what I recommend you do is actually start higher. So in the inverted upside down position there, tight tuck, and then slowly lower until your hip is more in line with your shoulders. Now the tricky bit there is it's hard to tell. So you might need to set up a camera or get someone to watch from the side and just tell you when your hip becomes level with the shoulder. And then I would just lower as much as you can, video from the side, and if it's in line, perfect. If it's not, just stay a little bit higher. And if it's still very hard to hold that position, just push the knees out to the arms. So that friction will help you to become lower in the position. Now the cool thing is with the front lever is it's way easier to do that than it is to do the planche. So most people will get a okay-ish tuck front lever pretty quickly. But it does depend on how well you can get into the ball and how conditioned you are to hang in on a bar. Okay, back to the planche position now. With the planche, the goal here is to test now to see whether we can lift the feet off the floor. Now, I actually find it a bit easier to get into this position if I've got balls of the feet down instead of toes pointed. You know, on the last one, I got you to turn the toes over. That's a better static position if you're going to hold that for time, but you'll probably find that it'll have a slightly lower hip position than if you go balls down. Balls down, balls of the feet down. So what that means is here, this probably puts me in a little bit too high a hip position for the planche, but it allows me, like the front lever, to lower down into the ideal position once the toes are up. So I've got more chance of getting the feet to actually float. So externally rotate, I'm still going to push and create a bit of friction between the bicep and the legs there to this position. Now, see if I can go 1, 2. And if I can hold that, great. I'm doing a tuck planche. And I can hold there for as long as I can, with the goal being at least 5 seconds, ideally around 10 seconds. And you might need to play with that a little bit just to see whether you can actually do it. If you can't do it, we have a couple of options. Just hold in that position, turn the toes over like I showed a second ago, or we could add band assist. So to do the band assist, you just need an attachment point. So I'm going to use this bit, this bar I've set up for my rings at home. but any pull-up bar or any fixed objects will work as long as you can get the band around it. And then the best way to set it up is to have your body backwards behind the band. So I think a mistake a lot of people make is they actually do it like this, then walk forwards. But you can see the band is pulling me backwards. So it's pulling me back in that direction. I don't want that. I want the energy to go forwards and up towards my planche. So if my protraction and my lean is this direction, that way, I want the band to also be in that direction. So if I've got this set up like this, I need to turn around this way. Put the band around the hips, walk backwards, externally rotate, exactly the same setup as we just done, into that position. And then with the band assist, it makes it a bit easier to hold that initial float in the tuck planche. Now, the distance from the attachment point is going to make a difference, and also the thickness of the band. Whenever you're using assistance, you want to make sure that the assistance is not really changing your ideal position. So if I Photoshop the band out, it should look like I'm doing the real thing. The band shouldn't change the technique of the thing I'm trying to do. And then the goal being to get rid of the band as soon as possible. Now, if you are working towards the tuck planche, I'd highly recommend you're also doing planche leans. Now, planche leans is the same thing in terms of the upper body. Externally rotate the hands, strong protraction, lean the shoulders forwards. But now we lean forwards with a straighter body and keeping the toes on the floor. So in this type of position, and again, holding. With that one, I would tend to do longer holds of around 20 seconds because it's easier to set up there and hold there for time. You don't want to be messing around with 5-second holds time 10 sets. You're better off doing 20-second holds for 3 or 4 sets. And probably the best way to do it is just do a combination of both of those. Tuck planche repetitions, whichever setup you need, plus the planche leans, and then you're going to get the best of both. The downside of only doing planche leans is that you don't learn the balance and the positioning of the tuck planche. Another great exercise is to go between them. So you're in the planche lean position like that, and then you just walk the toes into your tuck planche and back again. You could slide the feet if you have socks and a smooth floor, or use a cardboard or a slider. That works really nice. Just don't do this. Don't take the weight back to the feet as you walk in. Keep the weight forwards into that planche position. The toes should feel like they're light on the floor all the way in, and they're not getting heavier and heavier as you walk in, because the goal is to put all the energy into that tight protracted position. You can also use the band to help you with the front lever. I would try and get this without ideally first, but if you need to, do this type of setup, get it underneath the butt cheeks there, looped around the hands, walk into the position. Now with the tuck position, you can lose the band a little bit. It's a little bit easier to do more advanced front lever positions here, but you'd have to go into something like that. See how the band has gone up there? This is the bit that makes it harder. What I'd recommend you do if you are going to use it for tuck planche is frog the legs around the outside and actually take the legs more into a frog position around there, and that stops the band from riding up, but it's not the ideal position. So most people are going to use the band for harder progressions of the front lever. I would tend to use more friction, push the legs out onto the arms if you need help. And most of you are going to find this one a little bit easier than planche. And if so, you can start to open out to slightly harder positions. Just think when you're opening these positions out, you want to keep the heels at the butt. So this position here, and then slowly take the knees away from the chest, keeping the heels in. If we do this, it starts to really work the hip flexors and get them too involved in the movement. And then if you try and do both, take the knees away from the chest and the feet away at the same time, it gets very hard too quickly. So you want to have very small, slow increments in terms of progressions for these drills. And normally the easiest way of doing that is just slowly increase the time as the progression, not the position. But as soon as you get up to 10 seconds plus consistently, you can then probably drop it back in terms of time, just make the progression harder in terms of the position. If you need more help with your training, I have my app and coaching options down in the description. The app has multiple programs from beginner to advanced, demonstration videos for all the exercises with progressions, and longer video tutorials. Let me know if you have any questions or requests down in the comments, and I'll speak to you guys in the next one.